This is the Uncolored Podcast. My name is Kevin Metcalf. I'm the host. Thanks for tuning in today. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, and Google Play, and soon will be Spotify. We'll start with this. Back in the 80s, in the early 80s, there was a big scandal. There was a guy named, well, there's a lot of them, but this particular one involved a guy named Jim and Tammy Faye Bakker. They were the leaders of a big church. It was called, not sure what it was called. It was called the PTL Club. That's what it was. They had some TV show on TV called the PTL Club. You could tune in, watch them talk about, Christian stuff. And as I get into this, I want to say this, and I know I've said it before, but I want to make it clear. I'm not down on religious folks. I'm glad there are religious people. A lot of great things done by religion. A lot of great people involved in religion. They do wonderful things. Your friends, family, co-workers, whatnot. So I'm not down on religion. God bless everybody who likes their own religion. It's just that, unfortunately, I think that when you join any group, especially groups that have basically no bar to entry, anybody can call themselves part of your group. You can get nutcases, like anything. There's all kinds of folks who could take your organization, claim they're part of it, and start doing goofy stuff. So what happens, it's not just religion, it's any organization, which is, again, why I try to stay away from organizations. But this Jim Bakker, he was part of this religion, the Pat Robertson, I think they're 700 Club. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But he was part of that 700 Club thing. He had big networks, really rich guy. They even had a theme park or something like that. But it turns out that over time, that he was banging his secretary and stealing money. Okay, it's not uncommon. It happens. There's a lot of religious organizations that have some screwball in there doing bad things, making a bad name for the particular religion. The funny thing about it is, so they I think their church ended, and let me see what church it is. It's bugging me now. It was called the Assemblies of God. That was their church. They were part of the 700 Club, the PTL thing. They had networks and amusement parks. But it turns out he's banging his secretary. I think her name was Jessica Hahn, I think was the name, and stealing money. Apparently at some point, according to this is on Wikipedia. You can read the whole thing for yourself on Wikipedia. I don't know how accurate it is. Wikipedia isn't always the most accurate source, but I think it's in the ballpark. But apparently this guy was raking in. They were getting like $1 million a week or a month from, viewers calling into their show. Or I don't know how they got their money, but, they get donations or whatever. You call an 800 number. But so the church, his church thing ended, and there was all these tearful apologies by him and his wife. It was pretty funny at the time. That's not right, but it was pretty funny. It was kind of a circus. But he ended up going to jail for the FCC violations or something like that. And apparently he's still out of jail. He got out of jail and started up again. He's not married to the gal Tammy Faye anymore. And he's got his own show called the Jim Bakker Prophecy and End Times News. You got to give it to this guy. He's one hell of a salesman, man. He's back on top. God bless America. So apparently there's no end to the people who love Jim Bakker and his end times prophecy. He's got a couple of books out. One is the, let me see. Well, he's got a couple of cool books that he's written, I think, since he's gotten out of jail. All right, here's his book, Prosperity and the Coming Apocalypse. And in the Amazon page here, it says, you can get it on Amazon if you'd like. It says, the end is near. You've certainly heard the phrase before, and though you may have neglected such a warning in the past, you cannot ignore it any longer. You know, if this is true, I'm the first guy that's going, God will be pissed at me, because I think this is all bullshit. So it says, the sign of the end times are all around us. In Prosperity and the Coming Apocalypse, Jim Bakker reveals the last day's message he received while in prison. So look even in prison, the guy's got ideas, man. He's not stopping. He's coming out with all these money-making ideas. The guy never stops. It says, this is not just a book of prophecy. It's a book of survival. Through careful study of God's word and re-examination of his early prosperity theology, Bakker reveals the answers to the questions of concern for some Christians. Not all of them, just some of them. Though no one knows exactly the time of Jesus' return, well, listen, he's going to hedge his bets. It will happen. Prosperity and the Coming Apocalypse illustrates how soon the end will be here. Are you prepared for that day? Now, look, as I say, I'm making fun of this. I'm not an apocalypse guy. But I think I said, maybe I did on the last podcast. There's lots of folks out there who are proclaiming the end of the world. And not just religious folks. I think there was a guy a couple of years ago who said it was going to happen in November or something like that the end of the world was going to happen in November. And it was something like a year away. And it's a hustle. That's all it is. And it works something like this. They bracket the proposal in this way. On one side of the proposal, there is this oncoming, unavoidable cataclysm that's going to destroy the whole planet. Okay, that's one side of the bracket. The other side of the bracket is, if you give me lots of money, I can fix it for you. I can fix it so that you won't have to go through this oncoming apocalypse. And apparently, that's very appealing to a lot of people because this Jim Bakker made loads of cash in the 80s before he went to jail. And here's how they legitimize the apocalypse. With the religious folks, what they do is, and I may have mentioned it before, but, if there's some sort of military conflict going on in the Middle East, that somehow corresponds to prophecy someplace in the Bible. Or if somebody gets elected as president or ruler in some other part of the land, they go, that's the thing before the Antichrist comes. And you hear it all day long, no matter what the event, they somehow can twist it into becoming an end times prophecy. And it works. It's been working for decades, for hundreds of years probably. And as I said in another podcast, or maybe I didn't, I don't know. I don't remember what the hell I say half the time. But global warming's the same thing. If it's a hot day, it's global warming. If it's too cold, it's global warming, right? Hurricanes, good weather, bad weather, it doesn't matter. Any kind of weather you get is confirmation of the oncoming catastrophe, no matter what it is. Okay, it's just a religious hustle. It's a smart one, don't get me wrong, but it's just a scam. Listen, all through your life, it's happened in the past and will continue to happen. People, for whatever reason, are going to proclaim the end of the world, and then they're going to sell you something. And that's the genius of it. Again, not all religious folks are charlatans, but many of them are, and usually they're on TV, in my opinion. So Jim Bakker's thing was, back in the day, was get rich, make money, and the end times. It's sort of a weird dichotomy the two things together, the end of the world and make lots of money. But what the hell? Business is business. Hold on here. I'm going to click on the Jim Bakker show. He's got his own website. And he's got a store too, which is nice. If you'd like to buy things and shop. What the hell's he got on his shirt? What has he got here? He's got food, Bibles, hemp oil. Well, that's not bad. Hemp oil. Let's see what kind of food he's got here. He's got for, let's see, the number 7 food bucket offer for $495. Augustin Farm, $79. Looks like Italian food. I'll tell you, this looks good. That's not bad. Pancakes, soup, biscuits, brownies. That's not bad. Well, anyway. So he's got the show again. He's out and selling stuff to people who believe in the end times. And if you want to be well fed, you can get your end times food, a couple of books, and be prepared for Jesus coming back. Now, it's just my personal opinion. I don't know anything about the end times, as Jim Bakker states he does. But I think he's full of shit. Sorry, Bapos. Sorry about that. I don't think he knows what the hell he's talking about. I think it's a scam. And God bless folks if they want to, buy from him, listen to him, buy his books. There's no problem. And as I say, all religious folks aren't scammy like this. There's a lot of great religious people doing wonderful things, and you should get to know them. They would enrich your life by sitting down and talking with them and getting to know them, and they'd be a benefit to you. So I'm not painting all religious folks with the same brush, especially since I think we're all religious folks in some way, which is the whole gist of this podcast. What I am saying is there's always some nutcase trying to get into your pockets by proclaiming gloom and doom. And somehow they've got the answer, and if you give them your money, it's somehow going to help you survive this doom and gloom. But it's not just Jim and Tiffany. And you shouldn't persecute people by the way they look. But if you look at these folks, and even back in the day, the girl has, I don't know, his wife, Tammy Faye. He's not his wife anymore. He's married somebody else now. I don't know who his new wife is. She's on the website. But Tammy Faye, I got to tell you, 7 layers of makeup. And the guy, I don't know. Again, you can't judge people by looking at them all the time. But you got to look at them and you think scam. At least that's what I think. But anyway, there's all kinds. But as I'm pointing out in this podcast, it's not just in what we would understand as established religions. These scams go all over the place. And so, while I'm not a political guy, obviously with social media and all this stuff, and I'm on the webs and watching stuff, it's almost impossible to come across a few nuggets of political gold. And I came across this clip of a politician. I think she's a new gal. I'm just going to say her last name. Her last name is Cortez. I don't want to screw up her name. But she's a new, exciting, young, Democratic politician someplace. And she says something that I found stunning, but apparently the crowd really loved it. But you listen to it, and here's what I want you to do. Now, you can't tell people that they're crazy a lot of times by looking at them. You don't want to judge people. But, for many years at the police department, all you deal with, you often deal with people who are nuts. That's part of the job. And there's a certain criteria that you go by legally when you're dealing with them. That's not what we're talking about here. This is sort of like, person down the street crazy. Not going to harm anybody, but just says some wild ass things. Not going to hurt anybody, but just says some wild ass things. And here's the test. Not a legal thing, but here's the test. If somebody came up to you and said something, right, made a proposition or, looked at you and had some sort of a proposition, the question is, would you call the police? If somebody knocked at your door and said what this person says, would you go, you know what? I should probably call the police and let the neighbors know that there's some nutcase walking around the neighborhood with this weird proposition. So listen to what this person, Cortez, I'm just going to say Cortez. Listen to what she says and tell me if you wouldn't call the police. Remember, you're sitting at home, knock at the door, you open the door, you see these eyes, and this is what she says.
And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And this is the war. This is our World War II.
Now tell me you wouldn't call the police. If you open your door, somebody says, hey, look, the world's going to end in 12 years. Exactly. And I need all your money. Wouldn't you go, oh, okay, thank you very much, close the door, and then dial 911? Of course you would. Who wouldn't? Can you imagine going to your neighbor's house the next day and go, hey, did you see that girl that was asking for all of her money? Oh, yeah, I gave her all my money. What? Yeah, I'm safe from the thing that's going to happen. I'm safe. I gave her all of my money, and I'm safe now. I didn't even ask how much. Just handed her my purse. I'm glad she came by. I had no idea the world was going to end in 12 years. Good thing she mentioned it, and that the solution was as easy as just giving her all of my money. I'm so glad I was home when she came by. Because there's always, you heard the crowd. There are people who love that. There's always somebody who's going to fall for the scam. Lovely. Okay. That's a hard number. The 12 years thing. That's pretty good. Listen, it's better than Jimmy Bakker. Baker's just going, I don't know. It's going to happen soon. Jesus is coming. She gives you a hard number of 12. That's pretty goddamn bold. And I guess you have to be if you're asking for all of your money. And I'm telling you, I got to give the nod to Jim Bakker. At least he's selling pancakes and food and hemp oil. You could get something for your money over there on this website, but OAC, it's just give me all your money. Don't even ask why. Just give me the money, because you've got 12 years left unless I save the planet. And, look, I don't care what your religion is. People, like I said, and I don't mean to bang on religions. There's a lot of wonderful people, a lot of wonderful religions, and I mean that. Some wonderful people you want to know, involved in the religions, doing great things. Neighbors, friends, family, people at work, they're responsible. Okay, they don't tell you the world's going to end if you don't give them their money. But there's a lot of nutcases too. Tons of them. And all this 12-year prediction, it's another wacky religion wearing the mask of a government program. You've got, oddly enough, an elected official running around to cheers, mind you. People in the audience loving the idea that they got 12 years left. I mean, they all applaud somehow. They got giddy when they heard the 12-year proclamation of the end of the world. I wonder if she said it was going to be 6 years, if she would have got a standing ovation. If 12 years gets you a mild applause, a golf clap, 6 years ought to get you a standing O. And the black guy, there's a black guy on stage if you watch the video. I'll put a link to it. He's sitting next to her in a shirt on the stage, and he's going, just urging her on, giving her encouragement the whole time. I don't care what religion you may or may not be a part of. I really do not. There's good ones and bad ones. Right? The good ones, in my opinion, are the religions that say, this is what we're doing. If you want to join, fine. If you don't, we don't care. That's a good religion. You do your thing, and if it works for you, I got no problem with it. The bad religions are the ones that say, hey, this nutty thing that we're doing, yeah, we now have the power of the government, and if you're not doing it with us, we're coming after you. Okay, that's Cortez's religion. If you don't give her your money, and don't ask how much, but if you don't give her your money so she can save the planet in 12 years, then she's coming for you with the government. That's her plan. They're coming with the guns. They're coming with the jails. They're coming with the rules. They're going to take your job from you. They're going to keep you from work and whatever they can do to make sure you adhere to their religious precepts and give you all of their money. Those are the crazy religions. And there's a whole bunch of adherents, and you heard them in the audience, who think it's a great idea. That's the concerning part. That's the nuttiness. I'm assuming that neither Jim Bakker or this Cortez woman, I don't think either of them know about the end of the world. That's my bet. That's where my money. If I'm putting my money any place, it's going to be on a bet that says neither of these a-holes know what the hell they're talking about. That's where my money's going. What kind of odds can I get on that bet? That these two idiots don't know what the hell they're talking about. I don't think there's going to be long odds on that one. But look, there's all kinds of crazy religions, and that's the whole point. Whether it's, Jim and Tammy Faye, absconding their church funds for a theme park or whatever the hell they're doing, or whether it's some government official telling you that it's the end of the world unless you give them your money. Same thing. And you tell me, be honest, somebody comes to your door and says that, hey, look, the world's going to end in 12 years, and if you don't give me your money so I can stop it, tell me you're not going to call the police immediately. Right? Tell you you're not going to call down to your neighbors and go, hey, listen, if somebody comes to your door, be careful. I don't know whether it's a scam or whether they're nuts, but just watch out. There's somebody in the neighborhood, looks like they're running a scam or they're crazy. Tell me you wouldn't do that immediately. But somehow, if it's an elected official or if they're standing behind a pulpit, thumbs up. Let's all cheer and give them all of our money. Global warming. There was a coup in the Middle East. End of the world is coming. Same thing. It's the same scam. It's all religious bullshit. And as I say, wonderful people in religions, don't get me wrong. I'm not condemning religion. A lot of wonderful folks in wonderful religions doing great things for people, neighbors, friends, family, co-workers. But there's a lot of nutcases out there, and you got to watch for them, because not only are there nutcases, there's groupies who love what they do. So there's no end of nutcases, whether they're in government, whether they're sitting behind a pulpit in a church, no matter where. There's no end of nutcases who want to convince you that if you give them everything, they're going to save you from something. It's the same scam all of the time. And that's all this is. Just another scam. So I'm going to move on to this. the title of this podcast, in my first podcast, I called it The Big Idea because I thought I was onto something, and I think I still am. But as I suspected, there's good news and bad news. It's kind of like an investigation, it's why I think I'm intrigued by this whole thing. You get some kind of a wacky idea and then you begin to investigate. And I love doing investigation. And you start digging up material and reading stuff here and looking at that, and you talk to some people over there, and you begin to develop data that either A, it supports your theory, or B, it challenges your theory, and you have to either make it better or discard it altogether. But that's the cool thing about an investigation, is that gradual building this solid base of evidence that points to a clear conclusion. And the more solid you can make it, the more happy you're going to be about it, that you've made this idea, or whatever it is, you've got a solid conclusion. So one of the books that I came across, and I bought it a long time ago, and I don't know why I hadn't read it. Well, there's so many books that I got to read. But it's by my favorite author, Thomas Sowell. And Thomas Sowell, I think, so here's what Thomas Sowell says. This is chapter 3 in the book. What is it? What did I say it was? Oh, A Conflict of Visions. Let's see, where did he go? It says, knowledge as conceived in the constrained vision is predominantly experience, transmitted socially in largely inarticulate forms from prices, that's Papos, from prices which indicate cost, scarcities, and preferences. That's mostly, he's talking about that invisible hand idea. To traditions which evolve from day-to-day experience of millions in each generation's winnowing out in Darwinian competition what works from what does not work. And then it goes on to talk about what Friedrich Hayek said. It says, not all knowledge in this sense is part of our intellect, nor is our intellect the whole of our knowledge. Our habits and skills and emotional attitudes, our tools, our institutions, all are in this sense adaptations to the past experience which have grown up by the selective elimination of less suitable conduct. They are as much an indispensable foundation of successful action as is our conscious knowledge. So what he's saying in there is that, at least what I get from that, is that knowledge is not just something that you read about or that you hear on TV or that you put on your phone and you read an article. Knowledge, much of our knowledge is experience. You do something, it works out good, it works out bad. You take that information and then you try to figure out what worked and what didn't. It's an experience kind of a thing. And as societies go, you learn from the person next to you. If the person is having a lot of success, then maybe you want to incorporate some things. If they're not having success, you want to leave that kind of stuff alone. And so we learn by watching what other people do. And that's why I think in that story in the Tower of Babel, the idea of going out, going to your own land and conquering it or whatever the hell you're supposed to do, that's going to make one society over here in this environment develop rules and laws that work for them, and vice versa. If you're living by the water, you're going to live different than if you live in the mountains. So the idea that all of society can live in one unitarian, monolithic set of rules and laws just doesn't work over time because there's too many complex variables to be taken account of, and human systems simply aren't able to do it. So, boy, that was an ugly one. I'm gonna end up there because I'm starting to bore myself. But conflict of visions, the ideological origins of political struggles. It's a great book. It's not a long book. And Thomas Sowell does, I think, a great job of outlining not only what the two different views are, but the origins from which they came, and also how they apply or what they look like in the real world. So it was a nice find for me to find, because it did help me understand this idea that I'm trying to develop more and more, and it really did flesh out a lot of stuff. So that's it for the big idea. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back with the Uncolored Sports segment of the podcast. I'm going to talk about LeBron James again. I got this fixation for LeBron James. Look, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's not my favorite player. He just isn't. And I know folks are going to think I'm a hater, and I think I probably am the definition of a hater. I don't know why I'm going to deny it. Personally, I don't know anything about him personally. I'm just talking about him on the basketball court in this podcast. But I think there's something interesting that happened that has to do with the Herd with Colin Cowherd. So I'm gonna play a clip from the Colin Cowherd show, because the Cowherd show, I watch it every day. It's a very entertaining show. Colin Cowherd is great at what he does, and what I like about his show is, while I don't always agree with him, he's a guy who is very good, and this is what he's really good at is. He's really good at taking data from a whole lot of different places. So he casts his net very wide, brings in a lot of data, and he's great at analyzing that data. But here's what he's even better at, and this is why I really respect him and the show. When he gets it wrong, not all the time, but when he gets it wrong, he'll tell you. He's not a guy who tries to defend a bad position. If he's wrong, he'll tell you about it, but at least his opinions or his conclusions are based on pretty good evidence most of the time. But this time I think that he was wrong, or at least he was wrong when he set out about this thing about LeBron James. So I'll talk about that in the Uncolored Sports section of the podcast. So I'm going to take a quick break. This is Kevin Metcalf, and this is the Uncolored Podcast. Hey, I just wanted to drop something on St. Jude's Hospital. They do some great things for families who are going through some incredibly horrific circumstances. And I know there's a lot of organizations who are also doing great things, and all of them are asking for your time and resources. So I just wanted to put St. Jude's Hospital on that list if you're considering someplace you can help. And this is not a paid thing. They don't even know I exist, other than the donations that I give on a monthly basis. This might even be illegal, what I'm doing. I don't know. But I just wanted to maybe put that in your mind. If you're looking for a place where you can help out, I think St. Jude's is a very worthwhile organization, and they would love to have your help. So that's enough. All right, that's enough of that. Get out of here. And I'm back. This is Kevin Metcalf. This is the Uncolored Podcast. Thanks for coming back, or staying on, as the case it were. As the case may be. As it were. I don't know what I'm saying. So last summer, before the NBA season started, there was a lot of speculation about LeBron James going from Cleveland to Los Angeles the whole previous NBA season. That's everything anybody can talk about. Colin Cowherd's show was dominated by, he had a little meter or a pie chart or something talking about what teams that LeBron would go to. So he goes to the Lakers. Everybody's happy. Or at least it seemed as though everybody was happy if he went by the media. But apparently not everybody was happy about it. And so LeBron James, somebody had the great idea to paint murals somewhere around. Mural. I think it's mural. They had the great idea to paint murals around Los Angeles, and they kept getting vandalized. Now look, that's wrong. That's not something I would do or advocate. But Here's one. It says the king of L.A. He's got a big old beard. He's got him a big old Jesus beard. It says, welcome to L.A., LeBron. Thanks to Baby Blue Barbecue for the wall, my boy. And then, I don't know, days later, this was, let me see, this was, what's the date on that one? I don't know what the date is. But then it says here on July 8th, well, that didn't last long. Somebody painted all over it. It's jacked up. And then they had another mural they're painting back over. It says the artist who painted the LeBron James mural in L.A., I guess he's I guess that's a Twitter handle, I guess, at Never 1959, said it painted over it because it kept getting vandalized. SMH. I don't know what SMH stands for. That's a Twitter thing. I guess they do. And then he's got this other one. And it says, where the king becomes the witness. Amazing new mural in L.A. Time to earn your seat at the table. And this one has LeBron James looking up at a picture of Kobe and other Los Angeles, Wilt Chamberlain, Abdul-Jabbar. And LeBron James has his back turned to the audience while he's looking up at it. And somebody came along and painted over that one. That's terrible. So there were some people in Los Angeles who apparently weren't happy with the murals being put in L.A. Jeannie Buss. It says, on those defacing the murals in L.A., if you're doing that, you're not a Laker fan. I didn't realize how many people from Boston were living in L.A. So it was a big mess. Apparently people didn't like the murals being put up in L.A. And the charge was against these folks, other than being vandals, which is an accurate charge. But they were saying that they weren't Laker fans. So listen to this. This is from the Colin Cowherd show. And Chris Broussard. I think, again, Chris Broussard, amazing in his coverage of the NBA. But this is what they said on the Colin Cowherd broad on their show.
I have to ask my friend, Chris Broussard, our NBA guy, to join me this morning, because I cannot believe what I am seeing with the second LeBron mural being defaced. It is incredible. My theory is it is Kobe fans worried that LeBron is going to shrink Kobe's legacy. In between the beloved Magic and the beloved LeBron, Kobe got you 5 titles, and it's going to shrink his legacy. And that's what it feels like to me.
That's exactly what it is. Look, I understood the first mural, King of L.A. While, I hated to see it defaced, but I get how people said that was disrespectful to mainly Kobe, but also Magic, Kareem. You could say that.
A little over the top.
Yeah, so I got that. But this one was completely respectful of the greats, particularly Kobe. It didn't put LeBron on their level as far as Lakers and what they've done with that team. And to deface it, what I would say is this. People who've done this, you are not Lakers fans. You are Kobe fans. Because as you said, Kobe fans are not pulling for LeBron James to come here and lead the Lakers to 2 or 3 titles, or even 1. Because they fear, as you said, that would put him ahead of Kobe and diminish what Kobe did. So they are not Lakers fans. They are Kobe Bryant fans, and they're not pulling for the Lakers.
Okay. So now both these guys are upset. I respect them. I think they do a great job of what they do. They're both wrong. Okay, both of these guys are wrong. I think that those people who vandalized the murals, at least if not them in person, maybe just somebody didn't like the murals. But I think the way the vandalism does, I think it was somebody who was upset at it. And here's why I think they're upset. It's not because they're not Laker fans. I think they're super Laker fans. And they're simply saying, can we just wait a little bit? That's what they're saying. They're not saying they hate the Lakers or they even hate LeBron. They're simply saying, can we slow down? It's July. Okay, the guy hasn't even put on a uniform yet. Hasn't taken a shot, hasn't even practiced with the team, hasn't even met with the team at that point. And all these fans are saying is, can we just slow down a little bit, right? And I'll give you an example. So if you live in a neighborhood that you like, maybe you own a home, especially if you own a home. One of the things that homeowners in a neighborhood that they like, one of the things that they worry about is someone leaving the neighborhood and then putting the house up as a rental. It's worrisome to neighbors. And the reason why is you don't know who's going to come in. The person may be great people. They may respect the community, right? But they might also be somebody who says, listen, it ain't my house, right? And you got beer cans, on the front lawn, parties every night, car parked on the front yard, kids running around all crazy. You just don't know what you're going to get. And the question is the next person to move into this house, will they be respectful to the neighbors? Will they take care of the house? Especially if you're renting the house, that's a big concern. Are people who don't own your home, are they going to take care of it? Are you going to have to come in, or are there going to be holes in the walls? Are you going to have to replace everything, water damage, all that stuff? That's a big problem for people who rent a home. And it's the same thing here. What these fans are upset about, this is what they're saying. You got LeBron James, who just left Cleveland in shambles. Okay, now listen, Cleveland wasn't a great organization before LeBron James. Okay, but LeBron James comes back from Miami, won a couple of championships in Miami, comes to Cleveland, and basically rearranges the whole organization. You've got a new owner who's got no spine, and basically whatever LeBron James wanted, he got. He got all these players on there who were kind of okay. You got Kyrie, who was pretty good, but you got an aging Kevin Love. He brings all these people and forces them to pay whatever they had to. Just incredible contracts. They gave that kid, who's the guy that shoots up the threes all the time? The guy that... What's the guy's name? He perplexed James in the last playoffs when they had time to shoot and he didn't shoot the ball. Poor LeBron James, man, his face was priceless. But anyway, they paid that guy some crazy millions of dollars, and he's just not that good. I mean, he's great. He'll get hot sometimes and light up the threes, but he didn't play defense. And so LeBron James got Cleveland to get this collection of desperate players, not desperate, but disparate. They don't necessarily fit together. Pay him all kinds of money. Then he scoots out of town, and now Cleveland's a shambles. They're nothing. They're at the bottom of the league now. And so when you've got these Laker fans coming in here, some of which are saying, listen, is he going to respect the Lakers franchise? Right? Is he going to come in here and run roughshod and do whatever the hell he wants to? Is he going to respect the Lakers franchise, respect the history of the Lakers? Or is he going to come in like LeBron James and say, hey, everything's about what I want? And it looks like these folks were probably right. It looks like their fears were well-founded. Because what they're saying in the beginning is, we don't hate the Lakers. We love the Lakers. We don't want you bringing in somebody, okay, who's going to destroy the team, who's going to turn all of the new players that we have that we're trying to develop into chattel for trade for another player that may not be as good as everybody thinks he is. Or at least, even if he is as great as he is, will he be diminished when he plays with LeBron James, as so many big men are? Big men don't do well when they play with LeBron James. It's a question of too many people needing the ball. And that's the concern that these Lakers fans had. Is he going to come in and request some crazy trade before the deadline that's going to make the Lakers look like idiots? Right? Is he even going to get injured? I mean, will he make it through the whole season? These are all questions that rightly should have been asked before we crown LeBron James king of LA. Right? Before you put him up with Kobe and Shaq and Abdul-Jabbar and Wilt, all of the Laker greats, okay? who brought titles to Los Angeles, who are the writers of this great, rich history of the Los Angeles Lakers, the James Worthys, the Michael Coopers, can we at least see the guy in uniform first? Can we at least see if we make it to the playoffs? I sounded like Jim Moore there for a second. So if I was correct in the assessment of the motivation behind the vandalism of the murals, I think that's what it was about. And if you listen to Colin Cowherd from just a couple of days ago, I think he's changed his tune just a little bit. And again, I'm not bagging on Colin Cowherd. He's great at what he does, and he's honest. This is what he said just a couple of days ago.
And let me start with this. Jackie McMullen, you know Jackie, is a legendary NBA writer. She's just fantastic and she's ageless. She's been doing this for 40 years. And she said about a month ago, she said, listen, there's tension in Los Angeles. And right. I talked to Bill Plaschke the other day, and he's like, I'm there every game. I'm not, he is. I mean, Sam, let's talk about that. There is a burden with LeBron. You gotta build to win now. And right. I sense there's real tension in the Laker building. Do you hear that?
I do. I think Plaschke's right. I think Jackie, the legend, is right. I think the dynamic from top to bottom is just not the healthiest. And part of that is we all know the timeline of Luke Walton getting this job as coach, that Magic didn't hire him, Rob Pelinka didn't hire him. Jeannie has supported him all season long. You know, constant rumblings that LeBron's camp and specifically agent Rich Paul is not the biggest fan of Luke and that they've kind of kept him at bay. You know, that's part of it. The AD sweepstakes with Anthony Davis being front and center. And as you know, Colin, you know, all these different trade pieces getting leaked to guys like myself in the media where, you know, the human beings in that Lakers locker room have to then reconcile that, hey, one day you think you're part of a young Lakers core. Now, all of a sudden, you're a chip in the AD sweepstakes. So a lot of layers to it. I do, to your question, think that, I mean, the unrest is there, and I think that's going to make it challenging for them in these next 5-6 weeks as they try to go get that playoff spot.
There is a narrative growing, and I believe, Sam, it started last year that not everybody wants to play with LeBron. You're just a tiny, he's the sun. Everything else is a tiny planet. Paul George chose not to. Kawhi, I'm told by somebody I trust, Kawhi's Raptors or Clippers. If Anthony Davis doesn't land there, it does feel like, Sam, the LeBron running the league days are over. I mean, this stuff all hits, Peyton Manning. It all ends. Right. It's going to end for Brady eventually. If 80 doesn't land in L.A., I kind of feel like it's a tipping point for the league kind of moving off LeBron. Am I hyperventilating here?
You're not. It's crazy to think how quickly that story has become a real thing, but I honestly don't think it's hyperbole. I don't think we're too far out over our skis to look at it that way because it's not that complicated. To your point, Colin, if AD doesn't go, then let's look at this summer. Kawhi is not pegged as a Lakers, guy. Clippers definitely if he leaves Toronto. Klay Thompson, by all accounts, going to stay in Golden State. Kyrie, we're talking about New York, other situations. Jimmy Butler is another one. Even if he leaves Philly, I don't necessarily see him going to the Lakers. There are only so many players who qualify, I think, as a worthy co-star for LeBron in Lakerland. Yeah. And because Father Time is staring at him the way that he is, I think the timing component is huge because we've already seen the kind of injury with LeBron this year that is extremely rare for him. Longest time he's been on the shelf for his entire career. That's this brutal reminder for the Lakers that, yes, you're ecstatic that you got this guy, but you did get him in the later stages of his career. I think that's why we saw this push before the trade deadline so aggressively for them to try to get AD is because they know they got to do something right now.
So that's what I think that whole mural vandalism thing was about. It's just what I think were real fans who were a little cautious, a little concerned about maybe jumping the gun on the whole LeBron James King of LA thing. That's all. These are folks who I think were concerned about what seems to be happening, and nobody knows. Listen, everything can turn around, and it could all turn out great, mini championships, who the hell knows? But I just think that the whole hoopla about LeBron James coming to L.A. and all the great things that were going to happen and putting him up with Kobe and Shaq and all the other great Lakers and Lou Alcindor and all the folks. Lou Alcindor, I guess he didn't like that. Abdul-Jabbar. It was premature. And that's what that was all about. Now, I wouldn't go and vandalize it, but listen, I understood exactly where they're coming from, and I think they're right. I think they're 100% right. So that's going to be it for the podcast today. That didn't have any sort of philosophical, deep, meaningful undertones. I think that was just a straight sports take. So that's it for the podcast this week. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Kevin Metcalf. Next week I'll have another podcast. I'm not sure what the topic will be. I've got a couple of things on the table, but it'll be a good podcast. So please tune in next week. Subscribe to the podcast. You can get it on Google Play, iTunes, and soon to be Spotify. That's what it is. And the Podbean. Thanks for listening again. My name's Kevin Metcalf. I'm the host of the podcast, and this is the Uncolored Podcast.